Hello, hello. I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights, and this is Ryan. Good morning, Ryan.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Just fine. Ryan LaSala, you're from New York, somewhere back there. Manhattan
That's
still, or
right.
are you out and about now?
Well, so right now I'm beaming in from Washington, D.C. because I'm on book tour. But yes,
Oh,
typically I am in
oh,
Manhattan.
that's terrible, you know. On a book
Yeah, I
tour.
know. Life on the road.
Now, I'm assuming that is for your new book, The Dead of Summer.
Yeah, that's correct.
Look around,
As
look around.
of this recording, yeah, you got it right there. Today's release day for me, so I'm not sure when this will find people in the future, but you are hearing an author mid-tour the day that their book has come out.
There you go. All right, for all you people out there. And Author in the Headlights is for readers to get their next read and writers to get inspiration, to get information, the how to, and this is it. This is where you're aimed for those that
And
haven't already.
yeah, and I truly am in headlights currently. I feel like I'm looking at a million things at once right now. So it's an aptly named
Well
moment for
titled,
me.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, truly.
Okay. So now you have a very unique genre that you write in. It's queer or LGBTQ, maybe centered horror and fantasy is the whole thing. Now, in that unique genre, what takes precedence in your stories?
You know, I always tell people that my main goal is just to deliver a compelling story, and the other details that kind of make their way into it are a pretty diverse toolkit. But the queerness is just it's a central characteristic of myself and therefore the characters that I tend to write. But it's not often when I say like queer horror, I think it's a sensibility that I bring into the genre that I write. But I tend not to write stories about people who are queer being persecuted or dealing with horrors in relationship
No, your
to their
stories
particular
are
queerness.
definitely horror and fantasy. You kind of write in different little versions of it and what you're doing.
It's
But
true. Yeah, I've written all over the place. My very first book was fantasy. My second one was a rom-com set at like a convention center. And then I made the switch over to horror. But even within the horror that I write, for the past three books, um, we've taken some twists and turns. We've got like a horror novel that takes place at a summer camp, one that takes place in New York City and sort of this like underground art scene that's very noir. And then finally, this one, which takes place in like a beachy resort town up in Maine. So I don't know, horror is such a diverse genre that you can
it
kind of
is.
go anywhere you want with it.
You do get around.
It's
Uh,
true. It's true. I'm all over the place.
but they're also unique and they're fun. They are. And a little bit creepy. Let me see if I can read the back of this one to you. Visceral and unsettling, the perfect creepy read. That's on the back of his book there. You know, yeah, Tiffany D. Jackson. And yeah, the perfect creepy read. There you go.
Yeah. I love Tiffany D. Jackson. If folks aren't familiar with her work, she is definitely a hero of mine, and I was very delighted to find out that she was able to get an early copy of The Dead of Summer, the book that's coming out for me today, and that she loved it. She's like, it's cool when you get to meet your heroes, and then when they end up kind of getting to lend a hand to lifting you up. So she's one of those people for me.
Was it difficult to make headway in that genre, or is that kind of the thing that carries itself nowadays?
You know, when I first set out to write a horror novel, it was sort of a last resort for me personally. And it wasn't in response to anything in the market, which I think people who are mostly on the reading side of the equation for your listeners, it's probably easy to imagine that authors are writing towards trends. But from my world, oftentimes in the traditional publishing world, there's such a long time between when you finish a book and when it makes it out into the world that
It
it's kind
is.
of impossible to write in response to market trends that you have no way of really knowing about, 3 or 4 years prior to when the book ends up like on a bookshelf. And so the whole trend right now of horror stories and people loving to read scary, spooky, supernatural stories. Well, first of all, you tend to see those titles get a lot more play in times of horror, like real life horror. And so but when I started writing horror, I probably couldn't have known how bad things would get. But yeah, the reason that I made the turn towards it was mostly just a personal taste. I've always loved scary stories, and after my first and second book had come out, they did relatively well, but they came out in historical moments that were not great for publicity. Like my very first book. I remember I was on tour when the quarantine happened and everyone had to like shutter inside. And so all bookstores closed. And my book was on all these shelves that no longer could be perused. And so
Yeah.
um, by the time those stores opened up, there were new books for those shelves. And then my other book came out the day before the insurrection at the Capitol. And so that was a week, predominantly focused on much more important issues than like a
Yes.
rom-com that I had written. And so by the time I was ready to write my third book, I was like, wow, I've really had such terrible luck with just like, the world and the marketplace.
The
So why don't I
timing.
write something? Yeah, the timing. So I thought like, oh, what do I want to write? And if I was thinking about not commercial viability or, any of those other things, like what would I sit down and do? And so I wrote this novel, The Honeys, which is a deeply weird horror novel set at a summer camp. And it like totally changed my life. There was like this instantaneous enthusiasm when we sent it out to editors, and it turned into this whole auction scenario for the rights to publish it. And it allowed me to quit my day job, and all of these other dreams sort of came true as a result of purely just doing something like for myself, which was an interesting lesson to learn as an artist, but one that I've kind of centered in a lot of my creative choices since then.
Oh, that's cool. I happen to have a little bird in my ear that said that you have movie options out there too.
That's right.
Happening.
That's right. Yeah, the one of the cool things that's happened for the Honeys is that it's been optioned for a major motion picture. Yeah, they not only optioned, but they also agreed to let me be an executive producer on it. I'm in the very enviable position of both writing the book and getting to sort of be involved in the big screen adaptation of it. And it's totally different than I thought. I thought that if you sold the rights of your book, you just gonna have to sit
You
back
sign
and let
away.
them tear it apart. Yeah, you're signing it away, but so far, it's been a really like positive experience.
Well, that is really good to hear. And for others
Yeah.
too, I'm sure, because yes, we do think, those not in the know, that basically you sign it away and it's theirs. And
Yeah.
to know that there are some other options there, that'd be
I
really
know.
cool.
I know. I hope we're waiting right now for studios to, review what we've put together and then
Sure.
hopefully greenlight it. So we're close, but it's not really in the territory yet of like it's definitely going to happen. And so it's still a lot of like turmoil in my
Yeah,
sort of
true.
anticipation for it, but we're hoping.
But that's also something for, again, for the writers, that movie
Hmm.
options mean they pay you to hold your movie rights. And that doesn't
Right.
mean the movie's going to come out from that yet, or from them even. They may say, nope,
Right.
we can't do this. And they turn it back over to you. And then those
Yep.
rights are again available to someone else to do, which often happens.
Right.
So those
Yeah.
movie rights are really important things and exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So fingers crossed. The Dead of Summer is my take on kind of a classic trope in horror, which is like the contagion or the zombie novel. But before people close their ears, because people hear those two words and they think, oh, I don't want that. Like, it's very different than I think people imagine. The main character he's a teenager named Ollie, and Ollie believes that his home island of Anchor's Mercy, Maine, is hiding a really dark secret because there was a chemical spill years ago, like in the 60s. And ever since then, there have just been a lot of uh, cases of chronic illness and sickness, but only amongst the people who live on the island, which is a destination. It's a summer destination for tourists. And so people come to the island all the time. The visitors end up being fine because they're only there for a brief period of time, but no one can really acknowledge sort of the underlying insidious nature of this community because it would be bad for business. And they have to sort of, they have to make all their money in the summer, and summer is always coming, and or we're, fixing everything up for summer. And so Ollie thinks that there's more to the story, and it's important that he figures it out because his mom has just been put in remission from her own cancer diagnosis. And so she's fine now, but Ollie wants to solve this mystery before anything gets worse. And then, as with many stories about the ocean, things kind of come to a head when a major storm descends upon the island on the busiest weekend of the summer and cuts off communication to the mainland. And all of these sort of long sunken secrets start to kind of rise up from the waves and spread amongst the community. And now Ollie's definitely got to figure out the cause of it because something is happening, something very bad. And if it reaches the mainland, it could mean the end of the world.
Wow. I said twisted, right?
Yeah.
So that's The Dead of Summer. That's the one that's just coming out like today. Woohoo. And then
Yes.
you've got The Honeys. Then you've got Beholder. Do a
hmm
quick rundown on that one.
Oh, Beholder. Beholder is maybe my strangest novel. Beholder is sort of set in a version of New York City, not too dissimilar from ours, except Ethan, the main character, is a young kid who's kind of constantly where he shouldn't be. And the book begins when he goes to a party that he shouldn't be at, and he's trying to leave actually at the start of the book, but someone locks him in the bathroom. And because he's locked in the bathroom, he ends up being the only survivor of this like ritualistic killing that takes place at this party. He ends up surviving totally by accident. And when he, finally gets out of the bathroom, there's like all these bodies everywhere. And as the sole survivor, he's also the primary suspect and he has to run away. But then he also has to figure out how to potentially solve this crime himself so that he can clear his own name and stop it from happening again. And that's where the sort of supernatural element enters because Ethan comes from a family of seers. So, like, they have sort of the psychic ability to look into reflective objects and rewind them and see backwards in time through whatever the reflection has seen. And Ethan has been told his entire life not to use this power because something sort of is lurking in the mirrors, and if it sees him, it's going to come for him. And but he has no choice. He's got to use sort of this ability to like look backwards in time to potentially confront, you know. All of these crimes and their origins, which may have more to do with him and his family and his power than he knows at the beginning of the story. So
So
it's
that
great. It's
is
like
twisting a twisted story. I mean, really.
yeah, it's really it's nuts. But I know it sounds really wacky, but it's kind of the origin of that particular story comes from classic literature. It came from reading The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, which was published in the Victorian era and is a short story that has a really interesting history. If anyone wants to read it, I won't recite
Where
it
the
now, but
wallpaper can make you mad, or that's the assumption or whatever the
Exactly. Yeah.
story.
A woman
Yeah.
is trapped in a room and is forced to stare at this ugly wallpaper. She has nothing else to do, and it drives her insane. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I love the idea of the interiors of rooms being used as a potential weapon. And so that's where a lot of the more horrific scenes come in to play with Beholder.
And again, you got a twisted mind, dude. Come on. See,
Someone's got to write these things
yeah,
down.
you kind of got a duology. I don't know if they really go together, but Reverie and Bedazzled. And
Yeah.
Bedazzled
Those
is,
are
mhm.
Those are totally separate. So Reverie is a fantasy novel, and it's sort of based in like my hometown of Connecticut, and it's about a gay kid battling a drag queen sorceress through a bunch of dreamt realities that keep kind of burgeoning into our reality, and he has to unravel them, which is a really fun time. And then Bedazzled is like it seems like it's going to be a rom-com. It's a little bit more intense than that, but it takes place in the world of competitive cosplay, which if
Yeah, this
folks don't
is
know what that
fun.
is, it's like, yeah, it's like you ever go to like a convention, you see the people in like the costumes, like there's a whole world of pageants where people make these costumes and compete against one another, and the things that they create are just exquisite and complicated and really like worthy of close-up detailed inspection. And that's a world that I've even competed in one of these before. And I wanted to write a story about two boys that used to be in love but have since broken up and are now competing against one another in sort of the highest stakes competition in their region. And then they have to get placed on a team together, obviously, because that's how rom-coms work. And the whole question is, can they figure out how to piece together something from the scraps of their previous relationship? And yeah, I love that story.
Oh gosh, that is a good set. That's five now. And you got something else in the works, right?
That's right. So The Dead of Summer, the duology. So actually the sequel to it will come out next year. And I just turned in that sequel like last night right before the launch.
Timely. Well, your next book is coming out. When it does, this one is already a hit, and you're just there, opening day of it all. You've got your background of other stories, and you're doing great.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to find a whole host of readers who are willing to kind of play along with the very big swings that I try to use my fiction for, and it's been a very I mean it's stressful to kind of keep up the pace, but I'm very fortunate that I get to write what I want, and that I found a lot of readers who are really into it.
Those of you out there listening, you can find his books, of course, all over the place, but you can also find them here off of this show. Look down below, it'll link right to DurhamandPublishing.com's bookstore and take you right to the book you want. Just help them out. I mean, we love to read, and you, of course, as an author, love to write, and that's the way the story goes.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
You bet. Okay, this is Ryan LaSala and his book, the newest one coming out, The Dead of Summer. Do keep an eye out for him. He's got, okay, a lot of twisted stories that are a ton of fun. Ryan, thanks for
Thank
being
you.
with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And for those of you out there watching, thank you for standing by too and watching with us here at Author in the Headlights, sponsored by DurhamandPublishing.com. And until next time.